We Make Movies, Film Geeks podcast, episode number 57. Welcome to the We Make Movies podcast, making the world a better place, one film at a time. And now, here are your hosts, otherwise known as the director, the actress, and who the hell is that guy? Chad, Michelle, and Garrett. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your movie made, how to get it seen by other people, and how to get it awesome. And today, the part of Michelle will be played by Chris Fenwick, who is not Michelle. Regular viewers will have immediately noticed, but that's cool. And our special guest today, Chris Fenwick, we're going to do a whole introduction and segment on him very shortly, but we start, as always, really quick with community news. And the first thing on community news is a new thing. We are revamping the organization and administration of this show pretty much top to bottom. And the one thing that you can do to help us out very tremendously would be, if you are an audio listener, or if you're not, if you watch live on the YouTube channel or after we record, please go to iTunes, find the We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast, and give us a rating. They have a 1 to 5 star rating system and leaving a review. So all you need to do is go there, click on the 5-star button, and leave your review, and that'll be totally fantastic. No, I mean leave your honest review and rating. But if it's not 5-star, you are dead to me.
I like what you said last week when you said somehow there was a bug and it only works if you click 5-star.
Oh yeah, no, that's still going on. That's still occurring. It's a weird little glitch, and it won't take your rating unless you give us 5 stars.
That's right. It's easy to do, and it helps other people find the show. So
yes, exactly. It basically links the show. It starts like connecting the show with other shows and makes it easier for people to find you. Yeah. Other news, Chad, do you want to take this Sundance Next Fest one? Because I know nothing about it.
We Make Movies sent a little crew down to Sundance's Next Fest, which is, I guess, just Sundance's mini festival where they show Sundance shows in Los Angeles. And so we sent a little crew down there. I can't say too much about it, except that it was a lot of fun, and just you should pay attention to our YouTube page over the next couple weeks, and you'll see the results of that trip.
He can't say too much about it because, orgy, it's a deal. But so that's super cool. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel. And obviously, if you aren't already, subscribe, which is a good segue, not really, but into if you are watching the show live, which it looks like we've got one person tuned in. Hi, one person. You can comment on the YouTube page, and we will see it in the Google Hangout, and we can answer it and bring your comments up on the screen. It's a whole bunch of cool stuff. So,
especially if you have a question for Chris, because he's not on the show that often. So
yes, we love to ask guests questions.
There's no questions.
And the more awkward, the better. And then finally, this week on Wednesday, it is our sketch improv night, 7:30 p.m. at the Theater Asylum in Hollywood. You can come. We do readings of 10 sketches that have been submitted by the community, and then we vote on them, and the top 3 sketches get shot at YouTube Studios next month. So come on by. It's cool. It's a free event. There's also wine and stuff like that. So swing on by the place and vote on the sketches that we're going to shoot at the next YouTube shoot. Yes. And that's community news. So now we will move into the guest interview portion of the show. Chad, do you want to take over here?
Yeah, let me take over. So on his Twitter page, at Chris Fenwick, it says he is a video director, very, in parentheses, overly opinionated digital storyteller. On the website digitalcinemacafe.com, the podcast for which Chris co-hosts, whatever, you know what I'm saying, which Chris co-hosts with colorist Alex McLean. On that website, it says Chris Fenwick has a 30-year history of creating broadcast television and corporate video projects that started years
6 years old.
Oh wow! It doesn't say that. It says that started years before even owning a computer, but the 6 years old might have been implied. As a broadcaster and as an early adopter of desktop video, Chris brings a unique perspective to what we do now every day. In late 2008, he was an early adopter of the Canon DSLRs being used in digital cinema and perfecting their use in his workflow. As co-host of the Digital Cinema Cafe, Chris enjoys sharing his thoughts and views on the post-production world. Now, he's been recording episodes of his twice a week, most of the time, podcast, FCPX Grill, since November 2013. And that's where I met him when he invited me to be a guest on the podcast earlier this week. And since he was so fair and nice, and since we had a really fun conversation, I figured we'd had to have him on Film Geeks. So please welcome to the show, director, editor, host of FCPX Grill, and co-host of Digital Media Cafe, Chris Fenwick.
Yay! Oh, I should have had Google effects for that. All right, here we go. That's our live studio audience. The studio that exists in my office.
I like the strobe. I just hope our viewers aren't anorexic. I mean, what's the word? Epileptic. Very different than anorexic. So, Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here. It's fun.
Can I start off by saying how much I love having other podcasters guest on your podcast? Because they have the microphone, they have the timing, they just know how it works. It's sometimes you get people who, we
don't really know.
Yeah, well, they just don't have the equipment and they're not used to the flow of it. It's fantastic. So welcome, Chris.
Yeah, I always say it beats work.
Right.
That's true. So Absolutely. You said you started broadcasting before you were 6?
No. I was totally lying. I'm actually very old.
That was a joke to say that he's only 36 now. See, I got you. I got you, Chris.
Maybe in my mind, I'm about 36 now. I was born in 1962 before they killed Kennedy, and
that escalated quickly.
Yeah. Let's go down that rabbit hole.
Let's just go right into it.
No, and but I've been doing I've been broadcasting and editing since the mid '80s. So yeah.
Nice. How'd you get into it?
I stumbled into it. It's a good question. The first time I went to college, I had a friend who was very industrious, had a full-time job, went to class full-time, and owned a video camera. And in the early '80s, that was being abducted by aliens. Not many people could say they had one. And it was really a big deal. So I used to hang out with Ron all the time, and we would do, weird videos and stuff. And then my grades started to completely de-escalate, and I was getting really, disenfranchised with the whole school thing. And my girlfriend at the time said, well, why don't you transfer someplace and go and do broadcasting classes? You can do that? I was so shocked that such a place existed. So I was telling one of you guys, I can't remember who, I think it was Garrett. Now I'm totally...
while waiting for...
Yeah, while we were waiting. That I tried to go to San Diego State. That didn't work. I ended up going to a school right near where my parents lived, and I totally fell in love with it. And although I will say I made the second big, huge, giant mistake of my life was, this was the early '80s. This was MTV. This was music videos, and I thought I want to make music videos. So, being completely ill-informed, I took video production classes and learned television broadcasting instead of filmmaking, which I probably really should have done. And about a year into that, I was looking at all this equipment in the control room, thinking, how are we going to take this out on the roof of a liquor store in downtown LA to do a YouTube video? And I realized I'm in the wrong industry. But I actually kind of fell in love with it. There's nothing better than live television, and it's only really been in the last 5 years or so that I sort of kind of cross-pollinated my editorial abilities with filmmakers and realized that there's a huge crossover when it comes to post-production, because I think a lot of filmmakers struggle with the post end of things. I mean, Chad, we were talking about it the other day about how you're not really an editor, but you edit because you can't find an editor you trust. And I think that that's a common thing, and it's a difficult relationship to build with an editor because what is it? I think they say that that filmmaking is really the editor's job.
Yeah.
It's the editor's realm.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact term, but anyway, that's how I got into it, and I did it a long time ago, and I've done it a long time, and I think it gives me, and again, like you mentioned in the bio, I was doing this before I owned a computer, and in the early part of my career, I worked on a television show about computers. It was called The Computer Chronicles in the 80s and 90s, and I worked on that show before I owned a computer, and I remember looking at those geeks on the set going, oh, come on, really? Go outside. There's a world out there. And now,
I like computers too, but I've also seen a vagina,
No, I don't like computers. That's the whole thing. And I still don't really like them. I like what they do for me, but I don't really get into this whole like, oh, I'm gonna take it apart and upgrade my mega RAMs or whatever. It's like that's not me. I like the tool at the user interface level because that's where I interact with it, and that's where I can make things happen. But the rest of it is they're really kind of a pain,
I totally feel you on that. I'm the exact same way. I'm not like people think that I'm a computer nerd because I know how to use programs. Like I know how to use a word processor and like I can use a computer really well. But it's like when people are like, "Oh, but you can build a PC that's much more powerful than a Mac." And I'm like, "I don't want to build. I want to use. If I'm a fucking fighter pilot, I don't want to repair my own goddamn jet. I want to fly my plane, And
I want to fly it home.
Right.
I just want to go home.
This is actually a perfect segue to the question that you were preparing there, Garrett. If you.
Yeah. Well, I was so I am always fascinated by, shall we say, experienced individuals who made the switch or were involved in the switch from analog to digital. Like I don't know if you ever worked on actual film or like you got into it after that.
No. I mean, again, if you have to go back to if you could go back and see what television and video production was like in the 80s, it was almost like Laura Ingalls churning butter. I mean, it was really, really bad. And I remember the first time I saw anything at all on a computer that kind of piqued my interest, and it was in the late 80s, and it was Aldous Persuasion. Now, Aldous also made PageMaker, which was a big deal in that era. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know about that. But Persuasion was the predecessor to PowerPoint and Keynote. And like any good slide deck making tool, in the demo that I watched or that I shot, the guy showed how you could change the font in the slide master, and it changed through the whole deck. Boom. Like my mind blown, because in my world, in my Laura Ingalls world, what I had to do is I had to go to a Chiron character generator. You probably never heard of that. And I had to literally retype every page if I wanted to change the font. And frankly, the thing only had like 2 fonts, so it didn't matter. But and then I had to capture those over a background. But when I saw that process, I realized that my world was going to totally change. And it wasn't changing yet, but it was going to. And the reason it wasn't going to change yet is the process of getting a video signal out of a computer back in those days was, NASA rocket science, Roswell alien technology lost. And so it was not possible, really. I mean, it kind of was, but it took... Like in the San Francisco Bay Area where I lived, there was one guy. His name was Woody Lawrence, and he built or modified some giant box of magic, and he was the guy who could take a computer screen and turn it into television.
Wow.
So it was amazing. It was an amazing era, but in today's day and age, it's fascinating when and I don't know how old you guys are. You're obviously a lot younger than me, but in today's day and age, you can take your iPhone, shoot a bunch of scenes, plug it into your Macintosh, import those files off your phone right into Final Cut 10.
Yeah.
You're editing.
Yeah.
That's
hell. If you want to, you can edit it on your phone. The iMovie
right.
app is actually surprisingly good.
I know, it's really fun too. And I think I predict that in the next, I'm going to say 18, 24 months, I will actually do an entire professional paid job, like real money, real contracts, real stuff, and I will do it all on an iOS device, basically just to say that I did.
Right.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a totally valid thing. I remember that when iMovie came out, there was somebody who did the, or no, when the iPhone 4 came out, and it was the first phone with an HD video camera, and somebody immediately made a short film on it, and like they were all over the internet. I mean, all over in filmmaking circles, but like,
yeah,
dude, you get your name out there for sure.
Not like epic rap battles or anything.
Right. I'm not that much younger than you are. Garrett, on the other hand, father of 3, by the way, is like, I don't think he's even 30 yet, which is insane to me. But
no, I'm not.
Just out of curiosity, what do you remember generally what year that was? Like, when was he able to do that? What you're the guy who
the Aldous Persuasion thing?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that was probably 1989 because it was in the end of 1989 where I actually ponied up and bought my first Mac SE. Now, I knew it wasn't color, and I knew it wasn't as cool as the bitchin' Mac 2 or Mac whatever it was, the color Mac that this guy was doing this on. But that was out of the realm of possibility for me to purchase at the time. And I knew I had to understand a little bit about computers. And so I bought this little Mac, and a funny story is that I bought it used from some dude in the South Bay, some, tech nerd. And I took it home, and I'm playing on it, and I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm a computer guy. Look, I can copy and paste and all everything. And I was like, oh, I'm going to clean up my thing. What's this thing? System folder? Throw that away. And, you don't do that on a Mac. And so, like, literally in like 4 or 5 days, I'm calling the guy up going, oh, yeah, this thing's not working anymore. So I had basically, I threw away the system folder. So,
oh man.
Yeah, and this is how little I knew about computers. And really, at that time, I had already sort of resigned myself to say, "Yep, I'm too old for the computer thing. It's beyond me." But luckily, I kind of got over that hump. And frankly, that's a good life lesson in any circle, is to realize that you're never really too old or beyond something, and if you apply yourself, you can pick up a skill, learn to be a better writer, learn to focus a camera, please people. I mean, there's always more you can learn, and you're never done learning, and that really that was really beneficial to me, because 98% of my income now comes from the knowledge that I have about the computers that I use.
Yeah,
the 2% is math.
And the other 50% is porn. No. So but I like, speaking to what you said, I feel like anybody can invent an excuse for why they can't do a thing or learn a thing. It's like some people just say, "Oh, well, I'm not good with computers," or or whatever, and there is that mentality that, like, oh, well, it's just like the whole you can't teach an old dog new tricks thing. And it's like, dude, there are cinematographers out there who are, in their 60s and 70s, and they're shooting on the RE Alexa. And they started on film, hand slicing shit with razor blades. Is like, you can't, no, like that's bullshit. It's so I really appreciate that. Just like,
they also have an AC though. Don't forget about that.
Well, yes, no, there's definitely that, but they do know what they're doing.
I do think, and I will confess something here, that I jokingly quite often use non-technical terms to discuss technical things. I made a reference on a show the other day. Well, I'm sure you could figure it out on the Google box, or the Blinky computer Blinky box. I jokingly do that, but there is an underlying message about it, and then I do like demystifying some of the technology that we deal with. And I think that, and this is my frustration with Google Plus. I mean, we're using the Google Plus thing, and I love what you can do with Google Plus. What I hate is that a bunch of PhDs wrote it for a bunch of other PhDs.
Right.
And it is daunting. It takes like way too many clicks to start this Google Hangout thing. It should not be that hard. On my Google Plus page, when I see the thing, I should say, "You want to be on the show?" "Yes, I do." Boom, I'm on the show. But
Right.
I want to be on the show. Are you sure you want to be on the show? How's your hair? Are you ready to go? We're about to go live. Click here to go live. Please sign away your firstborn.
Right.
It's like, it's literally, I think it's like 5 or 6 clicks.
Uh-huh.
And getting the invite in the first place can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, you never miss it. Yeah. So anyway, I actually do that on purpose, and I do it because I try to make technology seem fun and undaunting, and that's part of the reason why we do the various podcasts that we do on our little network.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about to start a 3rd show, and it's going to be really fun. I can't tell you too much about it, but it's definitely about demystifying technology and learning how to apply it in different areas of your life that you maybe didn't think were possible and the manufacturer didn't really intend.
Nice.
That's great.
So it's a little life hackery sort of, but it's a very much a software show, and it's going to be our first video podcast, and
cool.
We're still working on like all of the the technology. We're trying to do it like our intention is to be able to do the whole show by walking into any location and pulling all of the gear out of our pockets.
That's pretty freaking cool, actually.
You guys on camera, screen captures, all of this zooming and close-ups, and there'll be some post-production, but we're gonna use like ScreenFlow and stuff like that. I don't know if you know about that software, but it's brilliant. It's one of the most. Wait, do I have my name spelled right? FCPX Grill. Yeah, I do. Okay.
Yeah.
I keep threatening to make like company shirts where across the shoulder it says, if I typed it, it's probably spelled wrong, and I would spell every one of those words wrong across. So,
fantastic.
Well, that makes me. How did you get into podcasting in the first place?
No, I was in a car accident in 2010, and what it did for me is it opened up 3 hours of spare time a day where I wasn't commuting because I was basically homeward bound for 3 months. And
seriously, that old trope: get into a car accident, start a podcast. If I had a nickel for every time.
I had a nickel. No, but I had been on a car, a road trip across the U.S., Route 66, and I had. Do you know Frederick Van Johnson, This Week in Photography? I had met Frederick earlier in the year, and I actually emailed him and I said, "Hey, I got a great story for you. I would love to be on your show," because we did, this whole photo safari thing, whatever. And so he had us on, a guy by the name of Carl Olson, who had a show called, has a show, I should say. He brought it back, the Digital Convergence podcast. He contacted me. He goes, "Hey, I really liked you on Frederick's show. Would you like to be on my show?" And it's like, be on a show, and it's like a virus, it's like Ebola spread across the airplane. And so I did that, and he like contacted me like a week later, and he's like, "That was awesome. Do you want to be like a regular guest?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure. I got nothing to do because my foot's broken."
Right.
And then I did that for a couple of years with Carl, and then like last year he decided to hang up his USB microphone, and actually uses a real XLR mic, and I decided, I kind of have more I want to say. I don't want to be done doing this. So my friend Alex and I started Digital Cinema Cafe, where we just talk about filmmaking at every level. And then I got, I'm a huge fan of Final Cut 10, and I got tired of not being able to talk to people about that. And I found that every single time I sat down and said, "Hey," found somebody else that used it, the conversation was just lit up, and it was really energizing, inspiring. And so I thought, if I like this, maybe other people will too.
And you liked it right away, like when it first came out of the box?
No. I was right along with everybody else saying, "Oh yeah, this is crap." But in about I think a year, not quite a year, I got to the point where I went, I'm going to give this another try. And it was right around the multicam era. And I did a music video for a band called Seven Lions. They're down there in LA. And we shot 10 passes of a performance in a blackout stage. 10 passes with 2 cameras. So we had 20 camera angles.
Wow.
And
damn.
Threw it all into Final Cut 10 multicam editor, said magic sync me by the noise on the files, and even though it's totally distorted in the 5D2 little tiny mic, because they had the PA really loud, so they were inspired when they performed. It was like, yeah, that's enough. I can sync that. And first try, it synced everything.
Wow.
And then it's just cut it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
20 angles. And so that's when I
bet
really...
you that every angle actually had the audio on it. That's the bane of my existence when I'm doing a multicam edit. And some motherfucker turned off audio recording on his camera. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
If it's cut all the way through, though, I mean, and you used a thing, then you just find it once you sync one point and the whole thing is synced.
Well, there was one time, and I'm not going to call anybody out because he's a good person, and he just like when I told him, he felt so bad, but it was a How We Make Movies edit, which for Chris, that's a live interview show that we do. That's the other podcast of the We Make Movies group, and it's a live show. Each interview is usually an hour long, and it was all shot on 5Ds and 7Ds, which they stopped recording and started back up again every like 10-15 minutes because otherwise the camera would cut out by themselves or whatever.
Under 12 minutes, basically.
Under 12 minutes, yeah. So it was one of those, and he never recorded audio. So it was multiple files. And just,
You know, I will say this about the current level of technology. So you guys are filmmakers, okay? And what you were doing was not making a film.
Right.
You're capturing an event. You're doing video production, television production, and different rules apply.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I really appreciate about as Chad said in the bio, my 30+ years in this is I've made all those mistakes before.
Right.
And it's really it's kind of rewarding when you go, oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I won't do it again. And I think that it's actually really it feels good to have that, you know, kind of under your belt, and it really pays to double check stuff, you know. And you can't make assumptions. You can't assume the guy isn't shooting in some, you know, Stu Mashowitz picture profile when everybody else is in neutral or whatever. And you just gotta check that stuff. You gotta have, if not a physical checklist, which I've never had, you gotta know those things, and you gotta walk the room and check stuff and do a test recording. Wow.
Right. I mean, mind blown.
Hey, I noticed there's no noise on here.
The difference, though, the unfortunate thing is a lot of the stuff that we do, not all of it, but a lot of the stuff that we do is just a few of us getting together and saying, hey, let's do this, and there's no money. So that's where things come into play.
It doesn't take money to make a checklist.
No, but you don't necessarily, like, here, I'll give you an example. My brother is one of the most sort of in-demand shooters in We Make Movies, and he's now he's getting more and more and more busy. So we can't always get him just because he's getting paid gigs. So, for instance, he's the one with most of the experience. And the good news is that what we're able to do is, because we're just making stuff, and we're creating opportunities for all people to just keep making stuff, that we're able to all gain a little bit more experience. And so our collective sort of experience is going up. So even if we can't have Denny on set, we can have maybe 2 or 3 other people that have.
Yeah, and I think that's the danger of what is the word I'm looking for? Of specializing. One of the things that I try to encourage people all the time to do is, and it's hard because people get. We have a guy that works with us here at Slice Editorial where I work. His name's Steve Navrat, and I love Steve, and he's a great editor. But oh my goodness, is he a creature of habit, you know? And you could not pull him out of an edit suite to do something else to save your life. And I really think that every editor once a year should go out and shoot something.
Yeah.
And every shooter once a year should try and cut what they shot.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure.
And,
For
and
sure.
when you do that, you will totally shoot differently. You know, I mean, oh yeah, there's no reaction shots. Oh, that was my fault. You know.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I
And
No,
I
we're
I
go ahead.
am just mind boggled by directors who have never edited. And usually the directors who I have worked with who have hired me to do an edit, number one, usually we didn't finish the job. Usually it went on and on and on, and eventually they just were like, sort of, I kind of need to put this on hold right now. Da, da, da. But the other thing
the
is
famous
that
euphemism for "I'm throwing in the towel."
exactly. It's just like, oh, I completely give up or whatever. And usually it's their like it'll be one of their early, projects. And after that they like, just kind of take it home and they're like, oh, I'm gonna thing because like they don't know anything. And I don't mean necessarily that they've never been like an editor on a project, but there's just that they know nothing about it or come in with all of these preconceived ideas or just anything. It's like, well, I really don't feel like, this shot is working here and everything. It's like I wish that the camera was like a little bit more like 6 inches to the left. And I'm like, why the fuck?
Yet it's not.
Right. It's like, what? I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with that communication.
Right.
Got it from this location.
You shot this motherfucker.
Since this is normally sort of a news show, I would like to actually cover a couple of news items, if that's all right, and then we would love to have you pipe in.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Okay. You do a little bit of your news thing. I'm gonna go get a beverage. I'll be right back. I literally.
All right, yeah. So let's launch into a couple of topics today. So we're having a weird sort of hybrid show going on. But Chad, you're actually first. So why don't you pick yours first?
So back in May, Honda launched a new YouTube channel that they called the Honda Stage. It's been rumored that they have spent $50 million on this initiative. But earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal announced that Honda's channel has accrued fewer than 50,000 views. Now,
hold on.
To put this into perspective, we make movies, and our dinky little YouTube channel has accrued over 385,000 views. That's nothing compared to the hundreds of millions that like PewDiePie has gotten, but it's in fact I think he's probably in the billions of views at this point. But
yeah,
and we have also, to be fair, been around a lot longer than the 3.5 months that Honda's initiative, and 250,000 of our views are of our single most viewed video, anti-porn. But that still leaves triple the views that Honda's $50 million Albatross has accrued. I mean, that's, if you break it down, that's $1,000 per view.
Quick side note, if you ever want to not sleep for like a couple of weeks, just go and look at in the analytics the search terms that have led viewers to our most viewed video, anti-porn. It's dark stuff, man. Dark stuff.
It's mostly middle-aged dudes from Germany watching it, which is bizarre. But anyway, regardless of that, Honda has spent $1,000 per view on their Honda Stage channel. So I just want to say one thing about that. Honda, give us a tiny fraction of that 50 mil. And I guarantee you we'll get you a straight buttload of views. That's a promise. And that's a metric buttload.
A metric
buttload, yes.
Buttload ton. Chris, are you active much in YouTube? Do you do a lot of things that end up on YouTube?
Yeah, I would say a lot of my clients, in today's day, most of what we work on ends up going into, some sort of YouTube or other online stuff. A lot of things that I do in the corporate world are corporate communications, corporate branding, and a lot of it, some of it is internal use only, not much of it, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff goes on YouTube. Yeah, we were just looking at some analytics on some of the pieces that we did for one of our clients, and I was like, wow, that thing's only been up for like you know, a couple of weeks, a month, or something like that, and I was like pretty impressed with the numbers. They weren't those kind of numbers, I don't think, but I personally put a lot of stuff on YouTube, on my own blog, chrisfenwick.com, where I have for a few years now been doing a lot of software tutorials. So like people would contact me all the time and go, hey, remember that time you showed me how to do that thing with that button to do that stuff? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, so how do I do that? And I'm on the phone. I'm like, oh, really? And so
I do that all the time.
So I got tired of doing it on the phone, and when ScreenFlow, the software I mentioned earlier, came out, it was like, oh, slam dunk. This is the easiest thing in the world to do a software tutorial. So I would just say to them, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a tutorial and I'll send you a link. And sometimes within an hour, I could do one of these tutorials. And I just started collecting them and putting them on my blog. So I think I have, I don't know, 120, 130 tutorials that are mostly about process, not like, although there's some of, you know, this is the multicam editor. A lot of times it's, here's a cool trick where you can make a couple of pieces of software act together. I think because of that, they're not super popular. I mean, I think the most popular thing I've ever done was I think it was a comparison between Final Cut 7's three-way color corrector and Magic Bullet looks. I think he's got, you know, 90 or 100,000 views or something like that. But most of them have, I don't know, 1,500, you know, 2,000, 3,000, something like that.
Yeah.
But because ultimately, I understand there's not a lot of people that are trying to do this, and I don't really promote. I mean, you just mentioned your search words. It's like, I should be that smart, you know.
No, but it is. It's like it's definitely a thing. There is making good YouTube content, and then there is
promoting.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but and the thing is that, you know, with like what you do, or I have several video tutorials on my personal channel, and We Make Movies has several tutorials on this channel. This channel's tutorials are Final Cut, you know, editing. Tutorials made by the, you know, yeah, and then mine are because I make most.
I know
of
Sam's been on my show.
Sorry, say that
I
again.
got a little lag going right now.
Fantastic.
I said, I definitely know Sam. Sam's been on my show a handful of times.
Yeah. So he's got his tutorials and I make mine. And see, the thing is that you are never, ever, ever doing tutorials going to get Vlogbrothers numbers or like PewDiePie numbers or anything like that, because you're servicing too niche of a market. But because it is so niche, it's easy to dominate, and you can be the guy, or one of like the guys, you know, the one or two guys, as opposed to.
And to be fair, our tutorial videos on our site, second to anti-porn, mind you, are some of our most popular videos.
Right.
So there is, it's a large enough niche that people want to see them.
And people do. I mean, you know, that's the business model for several people. Andrew Kramer from VideoCopilot.net, he has made his entire career off of making After Effects tutorials, and then he branched out and he said, "Hey, I'm going to make an After Effects special effects bundle, which you can get for $100." But by that time, he already had millions of or hundreds of thousands of website visits what do you call it, a month. And so when he puts that out, it's like boom, he makes a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Hey, can we take a pause and get a ruling? Is it niche or niche?
I think it's either.
Niche.
I think it's either.
I think it's niche. Yeah.
Depends on whether you're a douche or not.
All right.
Well, let me jump into my one topic that I want to cover, and I really hope that I get to cover my second one because it's very important to me, but I can always save it for next week. But speaking of YouTube and promoting and algorithms and all that sort of thing, this is not going to sound related, but it is. Somebody has developed a tool called Yasiv, Y-A-S-I-V, which is for authors, Amazon authors. Chris, I don't know if you know this, but I make most of my living as a self-published author.
Cool.
That's where most of my income comes from.
Like what this book over your shoulder?
Yeah, that is actually my book, Rebel Yell. That is coming out in 5 days. Kind of freaking out about it. But what this thing does is you type in one of your books, and it creates a freaking mind map of how you're connected to other books on Amazon. And I will screen share this really quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. No, not that one. No, not yeah, this one. Here we go. Okay. So this is my book, Nightblade. And you type it into the top here and you type it in. And then these are all the other books that I am connected to on Amazon. Now, by connected to, on the Amazon page, it's got, okay, so here's your book. And then customers who bought this book also bought, and we call them also bots. So when you hover over my thing, it goes, people who bought Nightblade also bought this and this and this, and then it maps out, okay, and those link to this and this and this. So it lets you see what items you're being associated with and what links back to you. Now you'll notice, because my book is new and not that popular yet, mostly it's just very new. It's only a couple of weeks old. Only the other books in the series are pointing back to it. Like nobody else, I'm pointing to this book, but it's not pointing back to me, et cetera, et cetera. So this is how this works, and you can type it in with different things and everything like that. But guys, why don't we have a tool like that for YouTube? Oh my God! If you could see because right now you can only see on your own video on the side, you can see what videos you're pointing to, but you have no way of telling who's pointing back at you. And if you could, oh my God, as a tool for YouTube people, if there is somebody who is consistently pointing back at you, you should be setting up a collaboration with that person right the fuck now.
Is there a way that you can filter out all of the purchases that your own mother made?
Yeah.
That would be really useful.
That would make it very, very handy.
I was not expecting that. Well done, Chris. Well done.
Or just
Son's an author. He wrote a book. It's on the internet.
Or just see the purchases that your mother bought.
Yeah.
That would also be useful.
But anyway, no. But for YouTube viewers and really any ecosystem that is so strongly algorithm based, there are ways that you can find out, for example, who is linking to your website, via Google. They keep track of all that stuff, and there are ways to track that down. But for YouTube, there really isn't a way to find out who.
No, there is a way. You can see what references your video. You just can't. It just doesn't look that awesome. It doesn't, that graphic interface. But you can. They're actually in the analytics. If you dig in there, you can see the references. You can see the websites that link to it.
But you can see where you're getting traffic from.
Yes.
Yeah, but not
traffic sources.
But not necessarily who's pointing to you on their also bots. I mean, I guess they correlate to a degree, but I'd really like something that's just like, here's all of the pages that are currently pointing to your page, because if you got all these people clicking on this thing from this one other extremely popular video, but you only have or from a not so popular video, but you have the ad, like you're being featured on another much more popular video, I'd like to be able to analyze the two of them.
Well,
together.
Plus that graphic interface is pretty tasty. It looks really nice.
I mean, that's just sexy. That's just icing on the cake. But anyway, so if somebody has the skills, I would love this graphical interface thing for YouTube. Chris, get on it.
Make it
happen. You want me to change the dissolve rate from 30 frames to 20? I'm all over.
So the NFL preseason games have begun. If you're a football fan, you're probably pretty excited. The site that NFL announced back before Super Bowl, this last Super Bowl launched, it has also now officially launched, and it's basically NFL. What do you call it? NFL Now. And it's in a Hulu model, which is so it's free to watch a lot of the stuff, but there's a whole bunch of content that opens up if you pay a nominal fee. And apparently it's different wherever you live. So like in my area, for instance, it's $1.99 a month, and you have pretty much all the premium content. I imagine that means I haven't checked it out. I'm obviously not really a huge football fan, but except for football, like outside, I'm a big soccer fan, but anyway, if you are actually a fan, you should probably jump on it right now. It looks like it's really cool.
It's on Apple TV, is that what you said?
It's on everything. It's on anything you want. You could just go there on their website. It just opened up like a couple days ago, I think, when the preseason games began. I think it's ended. If you just do a search for NFL Now, Might just be NFL.com/now, I think was where it was.
Can I ask you a question that
yeah.
I'm not meaning to be antagonistic at all, but it's going to be hard to tell.
That's those jokes that start out, I'm not racist, but.
It's not that I'm racist, but these two guys walk now. Why is that news? Why is that news to We Make Movies?
Because
I'm just curious.
Because we didn't have time to talk about it before. When you had mentioned the fact that we're talking about broadcasting when we're talking about filming, we on Film Geeks sort of consider them one and the same in many ways. And
we're very new age. We're kind of hippies. I do a lot of mushrooms.
It's bleeding together in a way where it's becoming difficult to tell the difference. And this is a difference that also Sam still doesn't grasp as much as I think, is that I've always thought for a long time that independent television is going to be as important as independent film in the future. And they're bleeding together in a way that it never has.
They definitely are.
Yeah. So we cover topics that are on YouTube. We cover the cord cutting thing that's happening right now. I cover it ad nauseum. I'm fascinated by it, and I think that people aren't really going to know the difference anyway in the future. Just some are longer than others. That's really, and some have characters that have another. The models are switching and getting so confused that the way we talk about it on Film Geeks is basically.
If I could try summing it up, Chad, is basically that there are lots of places that will teach you how to make a film, and we will occasionally delve into that. It's just that we're definitely not the most qualified people to talk about that. But what we do know really well is all of the different and multifaceted and many varied ways that you can then get your film to its audience. Not even just necessarily like what people typically call distribution, but how to present, how to market, how to do this, how to create things in the first place that people will want. So we keep track of trends like this and things like Vimeo's new program, or it's not really that new anymore, but where you can sell Vimeo on demand and all that kind of thing. So that's all.
And that's been specifically my interest more than anything else, and that's the reason why I came to We Make Movies in the first place. Is that what I want is to help create a situation where filmmakers and all kinds of independent content creators are able to act independently, and Sam believes in this too, independently of anybody else. Right. And it's situations like these. It's the move towards cutting the cord that is making it more and more possible for people. So that's why it's news.
And I think the interesting thing about the NFL story, and frankly, it's not that I'm not interested in sports. I'm actually anti-sports. I believe sports makes America dumber.
I sport so hard with
effort to make America dumber and whatever. So that's a whole nother podcast. Tuesdays at 9. No. But I think what's interesting is that if you want to look at fortified bastions of broadcasting, Monday Night Football and the NFL and the protection of that ridiculous brand is like gold. It's a religion. And the very fact that they're going, oh yeah, we want to be on the internet too.
Mm-hmm.
It's very telling because they're realizing that times are changing. This is not Monday Night Football ABC. It is ABC.com, but I mean, television is dying, and it dies a little more every day. And I think that the important thing is to realize that there are other ways. We get it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that they're starting to get it. Now that things like HBO Go are available on Apple TV, and
wait, a la carte? It's not a la carte, right? You still have to have an HBO account somewhere.
Yes, you have to have an HBO account somewhere, but you can enter in your username and password on your Apple TV.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is, but they're the last. I mean, because go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, agreed. If they would say, yeah, fine, Comcast be gone, $5 you can have HBO. It would be really interesting. And
Actually, it's ironic that you're saying this because the second half of this story was because I've been talking about how when HBO becomes a la carte, available a la carte, that will be the end. That will be when the cord cutting thing has really either started or is in the middle or is over, and it's already,
Games of Thrones, death to come, yes.
And so basically this is it. Because of what's going on with NFL now, because this happened, and it's always been sports and children's programming, I am opening myself up here to a challenge.
This just got sexy.
I bet that a year from today, HBO Go will be available a la carte. You will be able to buy it without cable, based on this NFL thing.
Let's put it in the red book.
And so I don't know what specifically I will do, but I will do something very unpleasant to me, and I'm going to leave it up to our viewers to decide. So put something very unpleasant that's not suicidal or homicidal
or illegal,
illegal in any way. Something that's not going to end me in prison or whatever. But put something in the comments, and the one with the most, the highest rated one, I guess it's +1s on YouTube now. I will do that a year from now if HBO Go is not available.
Oh boy! Wow.
Yes.
I've been saying that the real game changer. I hate that phrase. Is going to be when Apple opens themselves up to sell more content by individuals.
That's what I was going to say. Is Amazon's Kindle model, where anybody can put a video up and charge whatever you want for it. Whatever you got.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Can you do that on Amazon Kindle now?
Well, with books, yeah, but not.
Books. Okay, yeah. So I think if we look at the history of how the iTunes Store came to being, that Steve and company did some really spectacular negotiating with the with the record companies, and got them to agree to sell their songs for 99 cents or $1.29 or whatever it is now. And I think that probably what happened is part of that deal was, and it will only be you. And because the record companies, they're not dumb, they're just dinosaurs. But even the dinosaurs eventually died. And I think that if Apple would say, yeah, you know what, we don't care. We're going to let anybody sell a song, and all you got to do is log on, set up your little accounty, agree to give Apple 30%, go, click, done. Next thing you know, James Taylor writes a song in his home studio, diddles it out in his garage band, sends it up to the internet.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sends it out through the internet to Apple, agrees to let them keep 30%, and even though he might sell way less songs than if he had done it through A&M or whatever his record company was,
he
gets
gets
70% per song instead of like 2%.
That's what's freaking publishing out right now. I mean, it's getting a little.
Apple has done it with the books and the iBook thing.
Yeah.
iBook Author.
Yep.
And Garrett, I'm very interested. I want to talk to you more about your world, but and they're doing it there, but they're not doing it with music yet, and they're not doing it with video content yet.
Yeah. I can tell you why, or at least my idea of why, which is that almost all music and definitely all filmmaking is collaborative, and they see that as a legal danger zone. In other words, they could potentially, like, like some disgruntled fucktard could sue them because the producer didn't pay for the thing, which is dumb. Like they shouldn't have that, but that is the only reason I can think of for why they haven't already done this, because it seems like the smartest idea in the world, and it's not. They're not doing it.
I think that's an interesting idea, but it's not the only idea. I think probably what's much more likely is that they have exclusivity clauses with the record companies and the movie studios.
Oh.
They did not have exclusivity clauses with any bookmakers.
Interesting.
So they're stuck in contracts from before?
Well, okay, so look, I'm, Joe Super Record Company exec. And Apple comes to me and says, look, Tower Records is dead. All the record stores are going out of business. The warehouse is gone. Good grief, I'm dating myself. But we will still sell your songs. Problem is, I want to sell them one at a time. The guy's like, yeah, that sounds like stupid to me.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, well, but it's gonna work, and you got to trust me on this. It's gonna. I don't know how that went, but they said, well, how do I know you're not gonna bypass me? Because you do know the history of the Apple versus Apple lawsuits, the three lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 70s, you have Apple Publishing saying, you can't use our name. We don't want people to confuse Apple Computer with Apple Publishing, music publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple Computer said, no, we're just making the computer boxes. It's okay. And so then the 80s come around, and Pro Tools hits the world, and Apple Music comes back and says, hey, now people are actually using your little computer box to make music. They're going to confuse us. No, we're not selling the music. We're just making. No, it's fine. And then 2003 comes around, and Apple starts selling music. And if you look back in history, have you ever used archive.org, the Wayback Machine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Go back in history to early 2003, mid 2003, I believe it was May 2003. The Apple website had like Macintoshes, something, and one of the tabs was music. And boom, they got sued again by Apple Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
They changed music the next month to iPod or iTunes or something like that.
Whatever it was.
But they had to take music off because they said, hey, look, you said you weren't doing music. Now look at that, you actually have a tab that says music.
Yeah, it is. The exclusivity thing is an excellent point that I hadn't thought of.
And so, but I think that there comes a time when Apple goes, yeah, you know what, we don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Now, it's great to have the back catalog, but if they were to get like, and please, disclaimer here, this next sentence does not imply any of my own personal taste in music, but if they were to get, Justin Bieber, Britney Spears, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Eminem, whatever, if they could get like the Katy Perry's, whatever, if they could get 20 of the biggest artists to say, sell your next album exclusively through us, and you'll make way more money.
Yeah. Well, that is the future of music, and that is the future of what's going to happen in film. It's only a matter of time. Unfortunately, we do have to wrap up the show at this point. Chad's got to run. I know.
I talk too much.
I have a shoot in Tustin in 2 hours, and it's like 2 hours away. So
it's like hour and 50-minute drive. Seriously, Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today. This has been fantastic, and we should definitely talk about maybe doing it again at some point in the future because this has been a lot of fun. We will wrap up, as always, with our things to know. Chad, what's your thing to know?
Well, definitely check out the episode of FCPX Grill that Chris had me on. It titled "An Editor I Trust." I think actually maybe it should have been called "An Editor I Can Afford," but anyway, that's a great title. I'm the guest. Chris is the host, as I've already mentioned on the show. So go check it out. At digitalcinemacafe.com or just search for it on iTunes. And it was a lot of fun.
FCPX Grill. Commonly, we refer to it as the Grill. But
the Grill.
FCPX Grill. And we talk about all things Final Cut 10, and it's awesome. It's a lot of fun. I learned stuff every episode, and it's been very well received.
Yeah. Excellent. My thing to know is, like I said, that red book on my bookshelf back there, that comes out on Friday. So if somebody out there wants to pre-order, then go ahead and do that. Chris, where is the one place you want people to go? The one website or the one place you want them to go find your stuff?
Oh, I'm glad you narrowed it down to websites. There's a lot of places I'd like to see a lot of people go. The one place would be, good grief. You know what? Go to digitalcinemacafe.com. From there, you can get access to both of our shows because they're all in one feed. But that's Digital Cinema Cafe is the one show, and then FCPX Grill or Final Cut Grill is there also. I often refer to them as the blue show and the green show.
Fantastic. All right, so everybody definitely go check that out. With that, I will call an end to this week's We Make Movies Film Geeks podcast. Thanks again to our awesome guest, Chris. I am Garrett Robinson. You can find me at garrettbrobinson.com. Chad is Chad. You can find him at superfreako.com. We will see y'all next week, everybody. Bye.